Hello, I'm Joe. I created MAGFest. Thanks. This is my brother who was at MAGFest 1, John. And you guys, do y'all want me to introduce you? Do you want to introduce yourselves?
I'll do it.
All right.
Or do you want to do it?
No, you go ahead.
I'm Steve. Lumberjack been to all of the MAGFests. Thanks.
So, real quick, for those of you who don't know, there are 6 people who were at MAGFest 1 and have never missed a flagship show. And in case you didn't know, this we're bumped a year late because they canceled 1 year for COVID, but this is the 20th main MAGFest. This is it. Welcome to the 20th anniversary. And these are 2 of the 6 guys who have, everybody up here was at MAGFest 1, and I think everybody in the last panel was at MAGFest 1, and half the people in the next panel were at MAGFest 1, so it's, you know, but these are 2 of the 6 people who have never missed a single year. So before that, John, did you want to introduce yourself since I introduced you?
My name's John Yeaman. This is my big brother, and I have a video game store now. Followed in his footsteps.
Living the dream.
Oh, we can talk about that actually. Yeah, go ahead.
And my name is Mike Sackett. I drove here with his mom drove us here the first year. So I owe it all to him.
Here's my mom, man.
How old were you guys at MAGFest 1?
Yeah, I was. We were just talking about this. I think 13. Yeah. And I'm 35 now. So.
I think I was 17. So I think because the second year I was 18 and your mom let you go with just me.
Yeah.
I was.
He was my guardian, basically.
I was 12 at MAGFest 1, and our mom drove us there. Drove me there.
Yeah, I came in the U-Haul with Sean.
It might have actually been 14, but who cares?
I was 24, which means I'm really old now. But I'm Tom Deem. I'm actually the department head for the panels department. And if you guys don't know what a panel is, you're sitting in one right now. But so I've been staffing now I staffed for MAGFest 1, helped out there, and then I've been staffing now for 8 years.
We'll have to tell the story, but Tom's being modest. Tom was actually not the lowest badge number, but Tom was the first attendee to show up at MAGFest 1. He actually showed up Thursday night. I'll tell the whole story later, but
Yeah, well, when I die, that's going on my tombstone.
First.
anyway, let me twist this here. So just like last year, I'm gonna try and do it as quickly as possible. I'm gonna give you the 10-minute spiel on how I came up with the idea and how me and my friend Sean, there is a co-creator of MAGFest, Sean Ryder, who never ever likes to take any credit, but he frankly did most of the heavy lifting. Did you guys ever meet Sean? Do you remember him? Yeah, because he only came to MAGs 1 and 2, and then he never, he's got a family now, but I'll tell you the story about how MAGFest came to be, and we'll tell a couple of anecdotes here and there, and then we're just going to turn it over to Q&A if y'all have questions. And we have a surprise because we found some previously what we thought was some lost footage that's going to be really cool. Want to show yours? Do you want to wait until I'm done?
Yeah, wait till you're done.
Okay. All right. So the short version is that I've been to, into video games and Japanese animation, all this stuff since I was like 10 years old. That was basically the 80s. And in 1998, I met this guy named Sean Ryder, and we got to be friends. And we started a Japanese animation club at the local movie theater. In case you guys don't know, MAGFest started its life cycle as an anime convention. Oh, wow, holy. And this was, I don't know if you can see this, we don't have a camera. This is one of our little badges from the anime club from 2000. Yeah, wow, how about that? Oh, my name's on that. Huh? Member number 69. Yeah. How old were you when he gave you that badge? I was 9. I'm a terrible brother. Okay. But it was a cinema grill, so you'd pay $1 for a second run movie, and you'd sit down and you could order dinner. There were tables there. And they had a projector in the second screening room, so they let us once a week, we'd go upstairs. These were a lot of fan sub VHS. For those of you that are old enough to remember, when you couldn't just get every anime streaming or DVD, we had to get fan sub VHS tapes mail ordered from a guy up near Baltimore. It was called Pandora's Cube. Oh, wow, okay, there you go. And so we would play a lot of these fan subs, and we were getting like 30, 40 people a week, which was, impressive because, it was that movie theater is vacant now, but, and we got to know a lot of the people in the group, and we started a regular group of people. We would go up as crews to the anime conventions and staff at them, Otakon, Katsucon, Animazement. I don't even know if some of these are still around. Is Animazement still around? Yeah. Okay, yeah. Because I haven't been to an anime convention in 20 years. Animazement, the one in Richmond, AMA, and that's where we learned how to run a convention. We were staffing, learning about scheduling and shifts, work shifts, and all that stuff. And one night I was drunk off my ass. It was the year Katsu. By the way, when we went to Otakon in 1998, it was 4,000 in attendance, and that was some sort of East Coast record at the time. Can you imagine 4,000 people being record attendance at a convention? Yeah. And it was Katsucon, February 2001. That may have been the year Yoshitaka Amano was there. I don't remember, but no, that was the year after because we already had the flyers. But I was really drunk, and I said to Sean, who of course was my co-creator with the Anime Club, hey, let's do our own convention in Roanoke. Let's do an anime convention. And he looked at me and said, tell me that again when you're sober. And yeah, then the next morning we're packing up my Pontiac, my old 97 Grand Prix. And I looked at him and I said, yeah, what I said last night, let's do it. And he just looked at me and shut the trunk and said, okay. And we had this friend in Roanoke who, he's passed now because he was an older guy. He was a chairman of a local science fiction convention called ShivaCon. And he said, well, you basically need 3 or 4 things. You need a business license and a hotel contract. You need a little bit of seed money, and you need to book a guest of honor. You need to have some sort of draw before you start advertising. And again, at this point, it's still an anime con. We came up with the name Omake-con, O-M-A-K-E, which is Japanese for gift or bonus or prize or something like that. Which I probably got off the side of a Working Designs Collector's Edition, but that's 6 1/2 dozen ways of the other. And the idea was that what was going to make ours not just another anime convention is that we were going to have a big 24-hour nonstop video game room as kind of the centerpiece of, even though it was still an anime con. And because we always thought that the anime cons really neglected the video game aspect, right? And remember back then, there was no such thing as a video game con. There was a little show in the Midwest called Jaguar Fest or JagFest, which has now become, what's the one you go to?
Midwest Gaming Classic.
Yeah, that was JagFest back then. And there was one up in Philly called the Philly, but these weren't hotel conventions. This was a warehouse with a bunch of vendors swap meet and some arcade cabs in the corner. If there was a guest, there wasn't really a panel or anything. They would just hang out and shake hands and take pictures and stuff. So there really wasn't a video game convention in the sense that there was Otakon or Katsucon or, things like, you can understand the difference, right? So we got the business license, we got the hotel contract, all the guys in the anime club put down about $30 a piece. We had our seed money, and we came up with 5 names to send letters to for guests. And it was David Crane, who made Pitfall, never wrote back. Alexander Pajitnov, who made Tetris, never wrote back, works for Microsoft. Michael Bell, who's a pretty well-known voice actor, wanted a $5,000 appearance fee, and our whole budget was MAGFest 1 was done on $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think we spent we came up about $2,000 in the hole, but that's another story. Victor Ireland from Working Designs, who actually wrote back to us, so we got to meet him at E3, and he said he couldn't make the show, but he sent us some posters to give away. I actually still have one I kept, our Arc the Lad collection. And the last guest, it's funny because years later they got Machina Machine Supremacy here, right? And those guys had been around forever. We had actually thrown that name around, but we couldn't afford a guest all the way from Stockholm, right? So sent a letter to the mini bosses, and they wrote back to us and said, yeah, fly us in, we'll do your show. So we had our guest. And two things happened at that point. Is one, I started thinking about why are we even doing this as an anime con? It's video games. So I pitched the idea of changing it, and honestly, all the business stuff was in my name. Everybody else didn't have a choice, and Sean was fine with it, to just do it as a video game convention. And everybody else hated the idea, and there was a bunch of drama. The tradition, I'll take full credit for it, even though I have nothing to do with it the past 18 years. The tradition of MAGFest drama started with me. The buck stops here. I'll tell you that story because it's 20 years old. But so we made the shift from an anime convention with a video game theme to just a full video game convention. You know, somewhere deep down inside, I had the idea of making it an East Coast E3, but I was, 22 years old, and we all have dreams. And of course, and PAX did that very well, but they had, the fan base and the location and the money and da-da-da-da-da. But the other thing that happened is when the mini bosses put us on their website, suddenly we started getting buzz. All these other bands wanted to come play the show too. People started talking about the show. People were finally hearing about it. And the guys who got, all the anime guys got mad that we were shifting, and then a bunch of them, there was a bunch of drama, and you know what, I'm going to skip that. So me and Sean, we almost, because of all that, we almost just gave up and threw in the towel. The original dates for the show were mid-April 2002. But the hotel let us bump it back May, June, July, August, 5 months. And in that time, we came up with a new name. And we had two names. It was either going to be VGW, Video Game Weekend, or MAGFest, which at that time was the Mid-Atlantic Game Festival. The name didn't change until year 4. We went with MAGFest because, remember, we're like, we were young. We had the idea that it might be more recognizable in a video game crowd because there's that little orb that follows you around in Phantasy Star Online called a mag. So, and, but anyway, so we took some flyers to Otakon with the new name, and that was Otakon 2001. So it had been about 6-7 months at that point. And either we were going to get some buzz, or we were going to throw in the towel, and because remember, we were down from a crew of like a dozen people to a crew of like 3 people. Purnell was still on board, if y'all know Purnell. Rez was still on board. I know some of you got to know Rez, even though he doesn't come around anymore. One of the guys, Aaron, and my roommate Dave, and Sean and me, and that was all that was left. But we got some buzz at Otakon 2001, so we decided to stick with it, and we changed the dates and we changed the name. And the other thing was we had a buddy of mine from high school, because we couldn't get credit. But he could get credit, so he got us like a $10,000 loan so we could actually, do the show. At that point we were, going to the local putt-putt to borrow arcade machines, most of which didn't work, for those of you that remember. We, got freebies from, you go to the Rainbow Bread Factory and they're like, hey, you want bread? Just all these falls into a cart and you push it out. You fill up your car with loaves of bread, and for the con suite. And it all started coming together. MAGFest 1 finally happened September 27th, 2002. We got in there on the 26th, Thursday night, and there was we unlocked. We noticed this guy sitting in the lobby with a box. And whatever. So we unlocked the box. By the way, the entirety, all of the square footage of MAGFest 1, all of it, including the smaller rooms, could probably fit inside this room. That's how small it was. Yeah. And so we unlocked the ballroom doors. We go back out to the U-Haul to start, on the dolly to start wheeling in like the 5 arcade cabs we have, like 4 of which didn't work. And we come back in, and that dude from the lobby is sitting inside, and he has a Neo Geo AES plugged up, and he's playing King of Fighters. It was this guy right here. And that's how we got to meet Tom. And Tom helped us out that weekend, and we've been friends ever since. And these two guys I didn't meet until years later.
No, I did meet you.
Did
but
you?
Yeah, pretty briefly.
Okay,
Yeah,
tell me
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Go
No,
ahead.
you had your Turbo Duo, man.
Yes.
I wanted to check that out. You were running demo. I talked to you for like 5 minutes or something, so
Yeah, I was probably, I think we had Drac X hooked up to it because even in 2002, that game was already, and the game was only 8 years old at that point.
You were
It was
definitely
legend.
doing some sort of demo scene, something running
Oh,
on it.
you know what it was anybody know there's an indie TurboGrafx developer called Mindwreck Games, and they've done like Implode and Meteor Blaster and a few others. And I knew the guy. His name's BT Garner, and he still makes games for the Turbo Duo for the PC Engine. And his first game had just come out a few months earlier, and he was, running a tournament for his game. We had 8 video game tournaments the whole weekend. We had 0 people show up for one of them. We had 8 computers. The LAN room was 8 computers in the corner of the game room. What else? We had one events hall for all the panels and the concert and everything else. Gosh, we had some interesting sponsors. We had TurboZone Direct when NEC went out of business in North America in like '92, and they actually did bulldoze. That's why Magical Chase is so rare, because they bulldozed most of those copies. But the guy who bought all potential existing stock ran it, out of an office for years, and he bought a big back page ad, and he sent us the very first American TurboGrafx 16 to roll off the presses in a case to put on display, but we ended up keeping it locked up the whole weekend because we were afraid someone would steal it. Who else? We actually had the U.S. premiere of an anime. If you're familiar with the video game franchise YS, that was when the first 4 episodes of the anime came to America, and Anime Works sent us the premiere because, frankly, nobody else was interested in it. So we did have some interesting stuff at Mag 1. At any rate, we had about, we had about 270 attendees, give or take maybe 275 or so, because we did have a couple of local friends who were just wandering around.
Did the staff count as attendees?
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah.
No, I'm just saying. I just wondered when they started counting them. Because everybody gets a badge, I suppose.
Honestly, I've talked to Sean Ryder about it, and he doesn't really remember. And he handed all the paperwork off to Brendan, which I don't think any of that old paperwork exists anymore. So I really don't know. So 270 is the official number, and that's pretty close. It may have been a little bit more, but no more than 280, I would say. We didn't hit 300. I'd like to pretend we did. They hit 300 the second year. At any rate, I got about 7 hours of sleep. I crashed Sunday night for 13 hours, woke up with a flu that lasted for 2 weeks. And in the interim period, it was just so exhausting. And a couple of things happened. One, the guy who bankrolled us, he wanted out, so we had to pay him back, and we were in the red. 2, I had got accepted to my grad work at USC in Los Angeles, so I was going to go to Hollywood, and I got to spend 2 years working with a bunch of really famous writers and directors who are pretty much dead now. Any Star Wars fans in here? I got to work with Irvin Kershner for 6 weeks. Yeah, but and Sean left there. He wanted to keep on with it, but he didn't want to do it by himself. And so we updated the website with a little thing that said game over. And then Brendan approached us to, continue it on. And we closed that deal December 31st, 2002. And I left for Los Angeles in July of 2003. And the rest is it. By the way, this is the 20th MAGFest. This is my 15th MAGFest because I've missed a few, working overseas or whatever. But to be fair, I think all 4 of the people up here with me have been to more MAGFests than I have. So, at any rate, that is pretty much the story of MAGFest 1 as quickly as I could do it. I probably could have done it quicker. Does anybody have any questions about the stuff, specifically the stuff I just talked about? Was any of it confusing, et cetera, Greg?
One of the prominent things in the game room that I liked, I remember, was the DDR clone.
Oh yeah, that Brendan broued that, the Pi DDR. That was him.
Yeah.
That was him. Yeah.
I got him to hook up it to Galaga, which was a crazy idea at the time, I guess.
Being able to play DDR to a mini boss's song was one of my favorite memories.
Yeah. Pi DDR. That was Brendan. Yeah.
And yeah, if y'all don't know who Brendan is, he ran it for what, 9,
Brendan
10, Mr.
was
yeah.
I guess he was basically chairman from year 2 to year 9, I guess. Yeah. So he was the director of the show officially for 7 years, I guess. Yeah. He's still around here. You'll run into him this weekend. He's
No,
around.
he
No, he's not here.
Thought he was gonna.
I don't think he came this year.
I heard he was. That's interesting. Oh. We'll be having this conversation later. Somebody over there has a question.
gonna go
Yes.
see him. He's not
Oh, hang on
far.
before. Hang on. You what?
I'm going to go see him. He's not far.
Oh yeah, the Bloop Museum.
Oh right, I've heard about. Yeah.
in
He runs
Baltimore.
a museum for the state of Maryland that preserves video games and stuff. It's about an hour north of here. Before when people ask questions, who wants to be the person? Because the microphone will not catch you asking back there. So who up here with me wants to repeat the questions that people ask?
I can do that.
Okay, all right. Go ahead, ask your question, and go ahead, Tom. Yeah.
Just for a scale of growth, you said the first one was 270-ish. How many people registered this year? How many this year?
The question was how many people registered this year? I can tell you that our pre-reg right before Fest was around 15,000. Our high watermark, our cap was early 2020 show, which was we did cap it at around 25,000.
That's more than I thought.
Yeah, I don't know what the attendance are for this year. My guess is it's going to be somewhere around 18 or 19,000.
I heard 18,000.
That's good.
That's makes sense. I can tell you that I did see on Thursday evening that on Thursday alone, we checked in more people on Thursday than we did all of last year's con. So,
I can add a little addendum to that. MAGFest really stayed small longer than. I think it was MAGFest. It was MAGFest 6 or 7 before the show even broke 1,000 attendees.
Yeah, it would have had to been at the Hilton.
Yeah, well, because MAGFest moved around. The first year it was in Roanoke. Years 2 and 3 were Williamsburg. Year 4 was Charlottesville. Year 5 was Vienna. Years 6 through 9 were at the Hilton Marks Center, and they didn't get here until year 10. So that maybe held back growth a bit. But I always hear people tell me this, that they miss when MAGFest was a smaller show because it stayed a smaller, more intimate show for so long. A lot of cons would have exponentially grown in size a lot quicker than that.
Yeah, I feel like it's, pros and cons.
right, but that's why we did the MAG Classic and the MAG Labs for a few years. We're also now doing MAG West on the West Coast in San Jose and around August every year.
It would be nice if Mag Classic came back, though.
Still in the back.
All the way in the back. You're gonna have to speak. Hey, do we have a microphone that? No. Okay, all right, cool.
I was literally just going to ask if Mag Classic was coming back someday.
I was asking if MAG Classic is coming back. The short answer is maybe. I know the biggest problem was every year it was kind of unfortunately, it was a big money loss. And unfortunately, as you guys know, with not just us, but everyone with the pandemic, we're kind of being a little careful about how we're spending money. So we're kind of focusing on MAG Super, which is our big event, and then MAG West on the West Coast, and then trying to gradually add more events back as we're sort of getting a little more solvent. So, we have heard a lot of people would like it back, myself included. I think we're probably realistically looking at a couple years before we can bring that back, though. But it is something that's on our radar that we want to do again.
Are we still doing the concert line? We had no. It was like a Game Over.
Oh, the traveling show.
Yeah, are we still doing that, or is that?
I think they're done. Yeah.
I think it's on hiatus for right now. I'm not really
interesting.
privy to the details on Game Over, but we did have Mag Stock last year, which went very well, though.
Next time, please do it again.
We're definitely planning on doing it again. So.
I'm so mad you moved it.
You and then
So mad.
So,
I think 3 years ago they had the demo seat thing. What happened to that? Is that gone forever? Or?
Again, I'd say it's on hiatus right now. Brendan was running a lot of that, and as well as Tom Heyer, who's also here working on other projects.
Tom's here.
I'm not going to say it's dead. I'm going to say it's on hiatus for right now. So, but we have gotten a few comments already this year asking like, hey, is Demo Party coming back? Can we bring the Polish Embassy back? Another year. So it's something we are hearing about and would like to do again.
All right, it was over here.
Yes, was the Game Over touring event, is that similar to the PGA Fest or no?
Was it the
yes and
touring-
no.
Sort of. A BitGen GamerFest is a little bit different. Not really. I don't really know the details on BitGen GamerFest, but I know it's not quite the same thing. That's a
It's-
separate event that happens. That happens usually in end of July in Baltimore.
I was under the impression that BitGen's not a part of MAGFest anymore, but not privy to the details.
I also think Game Over is only one night.
Well,
It's not like a
we
full
were doing it in
weekend.
a couple different locations. There was one like in North Carolina. There was one in Toronto.
Yeah.
So that I'm not sure the details on.
Someone here had a question?
It's January right now. What made you guys move the date of the festival?
Good question.
So that's a very good question. It's basically why are we doing it the first weekend in January? That's the real simple answer, because it is literally the cheapest weekend at the Gaylord.
Well,
I'm not kidding.
in general, hotel rates, another add to that is why did MAGFest go from a 3-day event to a 4-day event? When we were doing Katsucon, Otakon, as staff, the general consensus was, one, you can't do a convention right after Christmas. Nobody's going to show up. Everybody's tired from the holidays. It's cold,
Spend a bunch of money.
And the shoulder seasons were the cheapest. Then shoulder seasons, of course, that's basically September through April. When you get to the middle 5 months, the prices go up. So April originally, and then September for MAGFest 1 were the closest consensus we could find to cheap but not blisteringly cold. And I think it was after year 3, because the first 3 years, I think MAGFest 3 was Halloween weekend, I think.
2 definitely was, but
No, I was at 2. That wasn't was that Halloween?
I just remember the
All
shirts like being Halloween
The
themed.
pumpkin
badges.
was MAGFest 3, wasn't it?
I could totally be wrong though.
But
But yeah, just to expand on that a little bit, MAGFest obviously has grown
he's got
significantly,
it.
but we're also a 501c3 nonprofit. So we don't have an enormous amount of money as opposed to a lot of the conventions that come in here. So, we're obviously conscious of budget concerns and things like that. So, we were able to work out something with the Gaylord essentially to sort of guarantee a certain number of business to get a good rate. That's why we can sometimes get a better rate on hotels and things like that it's not necessarily the official normal rate. I believe we are currently in the Gaylord through 2027, if I remember correctly. So we are here for the foreseeable future.
all hotels will do the sliding scale. The more rooms you book, the cheaper, the less you pay for the event space. And that was part of the reason they made it into, a lot of conventions, they do pre-con night, which would be Thursday night or whatever, to get people to show up a day early, That counts towards the hotel bookings, the sliding scale. But yeah, that part of the reason it shifted for 4 days was to get more hotel bookings.
Yeah.
What made you all decide to implement the hotel lottery system?
What made us decide to implement the hotel lottery system? I am not hotels, so I can't speak for certain. I think it came about as this was sort of the least worst solution that we could come up with. To put it bluntly, there's no way to make this fair for everybody, just because there are simply not enough hotels, hotel rooms in the National Harbor area to account for 25,000 attendees. So we came up with this system. We work with a group called Merits that does a lot of the third-party bookings, and we freely admit that it's not a perfect solution, but we kind of came up with it as the least worst solution. I know there are other extenuating factors that I'm not sure of, so I don't want to say for sure, because I know there are other hotels, because we always get the argument that Dragon Con, for example, Dragon Con, you can book your hotel room for next year while you're sitting in the lobby at the current year's Dragon Con, but we can't do that for various other factors, and I'm not 100% sure of the reasons why. That'd be more of a hotel's question.
Oh yeah, particularly questions about the early MAGFest though too, because Joe he doesn't know about the current any of the current stuff
I have
at
not
all.
been
Yeah,
financially.
but Tom just he's just a staff head higher up staff dude, so he knows.
Tom's still I haven't financially been attached to the show for 18 years. So you had a question?
Yeah, you said after the first MAGFest, there was a confusion of what was going to happen. How did the second MAGFest, how did that come about? Was it still in September the next year or a bit later?
So the question was, how did the second MAGFest come about, and what was the transition like there, essentially?
We Brendan and Eli showed up with the payment we had asked for, and we had my cousin's a notary, and so like 5 of us, 6 of us signed the paperwork, and we gave him all the, we had shirts and program books still, and a bunch of equipment we gave to him, and he was living out at Williamsburg near William and Mary, so he decided to do the show out where he was living, everybody on stage was at MAGFest too, weren't they?
I don't think I was.
Oh, you weren't at 2?
Not gonna
Okay.
make 2.
All
I
right.
think I missed 2 and 3. Were the
Okay,
2.
yeah, and I missed 3 because it wasn't worth flying cross country 2 years in a row. I was still living out in North Hollywood, but Brendan and Eli took it over, and they did their thing, and he would email me for how do I do this, how do I do that, or he would email Sean, and that's pretty much it. And we showed up, and me and Sean and Purnell showed up, and we. They didn't have enough staff, which was a bit of an issue. So me and Sean and Purnell, even though we were just going to chill, we ended up doing a lot of staff work here too. In the back there? Yes, yeah, you.
So how do you plan the panels? Are all the panels applied, or do you invite certain people to come back every year?
So applying for panels, I'll just answer that briefly, but we have a panels form that anyone that we try to post on social media, ideally 3 to 4 months before we actually close, and basically just ask people like, hey, give us your ideas, give us your content. Now, we don't just ask for just content from everybody. We also have, guests that we bring in. There are certain people that we do ask back each year. We are at a point now, just to kind of give you an idea, last year I think we struggled to get around 250 submissions. This year we had over 500. And of those we accept somewhere around 180 to 200. But we are kind of getting to the point now where we're starting to rotate a little bit of kind of not having the same panelists every year just because we're trying to keep new content in. But there is an actual form on our back end that basically dumps all the data, and then we basically go through and do, starting usually in September, and go through the submissions with a group of people to say what we want to put on and what we don't and what fits best in the schedule. So.
You already got to ask a question. All right, go ahead.
The music part and the live music at the first show, that was a very, very unique thing. It's not done that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that as well.
Yeah.
That was basically a happy accident, right?
Sort of. Now, to my knowledge, and I would love to, there is nowhere in the United States where 3 video game bands played back to back at a single event, as far as I know. If anybody does the research, but so for all I know, I created the video game concert, but it's whatever.
I mean, there were only a few video game bands.
There weren't a lot back then. This is true. What happened was, again, the mini bosses put us on their website, and suddenly the one-ups wanted to come, and everyone wanted to come, and I said, oh my goodness, we don't just have one band as doing a short. We're going to have a whole concert, and so that was. It worked out great. Maybe now's a good time we'll come back to this here with about 5-10 minutes to spare, but I sent you this picture. Did you catch the clue?
The date.
The date was September 28th, 2002 in the picture. Yeah. So I found an old camcorder cassette a couple of months ago, and I got a buddy in Roanoke who converts old weddings and stuff, and he also films weddings. Star City Creations, since he did me a solid on this one, he watches the camcorder cassette and he says to me, Joe, there's some sort of like a musical band playing on here or something. And I'm like, what? So I upload it to Google Drive. I'll watch it, and he does. And the first 2 minutes are this one playing the clarinet in middle school, and I'm like, oh, it's some concert. But I keep playing it, and after 2 minutes, it switches over. We're going to show a little bit of it here at the end. We have found, and to my knowledge, this is maybe the only copy in existence. We found about 80 minutes of footage of the MAGFest 1 concert.
Oh.
So we'll get to that at the end because, questions and whatnot. Do you want me to tell them about yours too?
If we got time.
If we have time. Also, a couple of years ago, Tom was passing through Roanoke, and we went over to the MAGFest 1 hotel, and we kind of walked around, and we've got a short little video of all the rooms of MAGFest 1, so you can see just how tiny it was. So we'll show some of that too. But anyway. Was somebody over? Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned your initial name was like MAGCon and then it became MAGFest. Why didn't it become like MAGCon? Like,
That's a good question, actually. The question is, why did we call it MAGFest and not Mag Convention? The short answer is that, so the reason we decided to do the video game centerpiece in an anime convention was to differentiate ourselves from all the other anime conventions, and a lot of the other decisions we made were to differentiate ourselves from every other convention out there, including calling it a fest instead of a convention, because everything back then was this con or that con, and MAGFest did that here for a couple of years. It's not a con, it's a fest. The idea is just to have something unique in the concept, in the marketing, and et cetera, et cetera. Right here. Do you have another? Because somebody in front of you. Do you have a question? Yeah.
Yeah, you said as far as like attendance, it took like maybe 6 to 9 years to hit that 1,000 mark. What would you say was the defining moment where MAGFest really like the sales caught wind and started to really like project exponentially?
Question, the defining moment when the sales really kind of took off. I'm not.
What bands were going on that year that was just like, wow, this is gonna awesome?
I'm not sure the bands, but I wanted to say year 12 was really where it kind of took off.
Year 7, I think was it year 7? James Rolfe made an appearance. AVGN was year 7.
He came back a couple times too.
Things like that kind of.
I had to sneak into 9. Badges were
they
sold out.
because of fire code, and that's what I was going to say. The years 9 and 10 were the years, because year 9 they ran out of badges for fire code, and the elevators broke. So the very next year they had to move over to this hotel, and it took them a couple of years to hit capacity at this hotel. But I think that was when it really started to break out. Was around 9 and 10.
Yeah, it was pretty quiet for a number of years, and it seemed like there was about a 3 or 4 period where we went from like barely scraping 1,000 to going to like 10,000. Just really went up.
In the back there.
So when did panels become part of MAGFest? And can you give us a flavor of what some of those first panels were?
I can. We got the program. Did anybody did we bring the program book this year? I forgot it.
Yeah. Well, basically, when did panels sort of become a thing? I think we did have panels in year 1.
Yeah. Since all 4 of you, because I want you guys to have a chance to talk some. Do you guys remember any of the panels at MAGFest 1, and which ones did you like?
I don't think I
Sean?
was just playing games the whole time.
Yeah, no, the whole time, no sleep. I think it was madness.
Yeah, no, MAGFest 2, I didn't sleep at all.
Okay. We only had, just a few panels. B.T. Garner, who was the first person in America to homebrew games for the TurboGrafx CD, did a panel about how he made his first game. Robert Aldrich, anybody here know Robert Aldrich? Well, they know him because he was a lumberjack until, last year. And he was a guest of the show every year. He lives in North Carolina. He wrote a series of, I think it's juvenile science fiction books called Teach the Sky or something. And he would come to plug his book every year. He had a panel on that.
Crossworlds, I think it was.
That was the first one. Teach the Sky came later. I miss Robert, but everybody gets old, look at me. But what other panels did we? There were more than 2 panels. We did have about. Well, the mini bosses, they had a panel at MAGFest 1. They got up and talked a bit and did a few autographs early in the day before their show. But the MAGFest 1 program book is online. You can find it on a Google search in PDF format, and you can see the whole schedule. But there really weren't more than 4 or 5 panels. It was just anything we could come up with. Remember, we had one room for the concert, the panels, anything that wasn't video games or the video room or the dealers was in that room. So it was kind of being split 3 ways.
Again, panels didn't really grow, I think, until we got over here to the Gaylord, and then since then, now we've got, obviously lots of different departments. So Reggie had just panels. Now we have, Makerspace. We have Mages, which is MAGFest Educational Symposium for the more technical discussions. We've got Arena. We've got tabletop panels. And there's probably Mag Scouts.
But no video room.
Yeah, video.
That is something that left there.
Still miss the video room.
Shout out to Roop.
Yo, Roop. Right, okay.
So, about the concert footage we're about to see, are there any plans to archive this online at all?
Sure. I'll put it up on I'll find somewhere to upload it. I mean, yeah, it's fine. I gotta edit the middle school stuff, because I want to keep that for myself. But yeah, it's gonna be up online probably by next week or something. I mean, hell, I can just put it on Google Drive if you want it. It's
Yeah, I do archival stuff, and like when
Yeah,
people
no,
talk
sure.
about this,
Yeah.
people love it, got uploaded.
Yeah, I just found out I just found out about what was on the tape maybe 3 or 4 days ago, like Wednesday, and I told Tom and I said, don't tell anyone before Saturday.
Yeah, I do know the museum also has a number of badges and some pictures that they've been trying to collect over the years as well to archive.
Doesn't the panel get recorded, so whenever the panel goes up, this will go up with it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter now, I've announced it.
Yeah, so we do record all of our panels unless somebody specifically says that they can't for various legal reasons.
Yeah.
That's you. That's you.
Let's go.
I wasn't sure where you cut the video, so.
That's fine. We got time for more questions?
Yeah, we can maybe
Well, yeah, we got about 5-6
maybe about
minutes.
5-10 minutes, and then we can show the last 10 minutes.
Sure,
and
sure.
outro.
Well, who hasn't, okay, right here, you haven't asked anything yet.
Yeah, so as gaming music became more popular, how did you kind of determine what bands to start playing?
That was after my time.
Yeah, that would be a better question for music. I unfortunately cannot answer that one, but it's a very good question about what bands.
I will say at MAGFest 1, they already said this, but there weren't a lot of music cover bands back then, so it was basically just the mini bosses. And there were a few more, but for 3 to reach out was a lot.
It's funny, some guy on Reddit from the UK who has been doing some archival stuff for MAGFest, I don't know if the guy's ever been, but he was, year one we had this one band called E for Everyone, like the ESRB rating, and I don't think those guys ever did anything after that. They got their college degrees and probably have lives. We don't know what happened to them, but it was funny when, just 3 days ago, I see this tape, and it was the first time I'd seen those guys in like 20 years. Right here in the middle.
How much did the planning for MAGFest change when you switched to the gay board?
A lot. Again, that's a little after my time. But.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't quite, because I staffed for MAG 1, and then I basically didn't really staff again until about 8 years ago, so that was MAG 12, so that was like year 3 of the Gaylord, I believe. But I do know from, going to other conventions, and now, because I also staff with Midwest Gaming Classic out in Milwaukee, which is also a great convention if you guys ever have a chance to attend it. It's more just the scope of everything changes. So you can't think like a small con anymore. You have to do things like, okay, now you've got to have a back end. You've got to have a panels forum. You can't just throw it all in a spreadsheet like you used to, because you're not getting 20 submissions anymore, you're getting 200. So a lot of it is just, everything just gets bigger, and you sort of have to thinking like almost like a
business?
Yeah, pretty much like a business at that point.
When you're only accounting for 300 people, right, a group of 4 could probably do that, but when you have 20,000, at some point you could see a teams are growing and developing throughout that period.
Right, and previously it was entirely volunteer. We do have a number of staff that are now paid either part or full-time, not a large number, I think it's single digits at this point, but certain people that it becomes a full-time job that's year-round. Like, you're starting to plan this for next year in February. So that's probably like the biggest change, just the scope of it. You have to start thinking like more like a business and a bigger company.
This question for the 3 original attendees. How did you first find out about MAG?
Good question. How we first find out about MAG? I guess I'll start real quick.
I'd like to know that.
So
VGMix.com.
You did?
VGMix.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I was a video game convention in Virginia. Like what? So I begged my parents to take me and dragged him along. I mean, I probably would have gone even if there was no music, but that was a big bonus for sure.
There you go.
Yeah, no, he just wouldn't stop talking about it.
So I'll try to tell the story really quickly, but I first found out about it at Otakon because somebody had a table there, and I don't even remember who was there. I thought it might have been Sean and Purnell that were there.
Was it with the PVM monitor with Drac X?
It might have been.
Yeah, that was Sean and Purnell.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how I first found out about it. And so I thought, okay, this is kind of cool, because I'd been going to anime conventions for a number of years, and it's like, yeah, I enjoy anime, but it's like my focus was always video gaming since I was 3 years old. And this was the first gaming convention in the East Coast that was not hundreds of miles away like E3. So I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. So I actually scheduled in advance and things like that. Try to get people if anyone's on the Neo Geo forums, I posted that from years ago. It's like, like, hey, I'm going to MAGFest, if anyone wants to go, and didn't get any crickets, anybody to say anything. So I just said, I got extra leave to burn for my job, fortunately. So I'm like, screw it. I'm going down a day early because it was like, it's Roanoke. It's dirt cheap for a hotel room. So I'm like, I'm just going to go down early. And that's why I was down there with my Neo just playing away. And I figured, yeah, somebody would kick me out or something like that. Instead, they made me staff.
Put him to work.
Yeah, put me to work. So I'm a glutton for punishment. I said, I've been back here now 8 years staffing, so.
How did you find out about MAGFest?
We figured that part out, yeah.
Do we want to, let's see how much time we got left. Do y'all want to
We got
see
a
some of the
couple
video
minutes,
footage, or do we have time?
Do we see video footage? Okay.
All right, show them your stuff first.
I'll show 'em my stuff first?
Show them a little bit of the MAGFest. This is a walk. I'm sorry, somebody said.
I'm excited.
Oh, we can do that. We can do that. This is a walkthrough with commentary that Tom and I did of the MAGFest 1 event space. We did this one about
About 2 years ago, yeah.
Is it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Is that me?
Yep,
Oh
that is
God, that's
definitely
me.
you.
Here we go.
Okay, short note on the mask. We're in
We
this
can
room all
skip
by
it.
ourselves, so I just took it off for just a second. When we're out there and there's other people, anyways. So this is one of the 2 dealers' rooms, and if you can sweep around the room, you can see how tiny it is. There was one dealer in this room, me. I had my own business at the time, Captain Game Station.
This was the dealer's room, half of it.
Emptied out every bit of inventory from my store and set up a square of tables here that weekend.
We don't have 20 minutes.
Yeah, we don't got 20 minutes.
Okay,
I switched to another one here real quick.
That was half of the dealer's room. Yeah, it's gigantic, wasn't it? You could have dinner in that room.
So this is E around the corner, and what I did
Video room.
I'd forgotten this, it's been so long. D and E are the same room, just with different doorways. So what you saw
This was the
just
game room,
now
wasn't it?
in the main ballroom, the air wall between B and C, so A, B, and CD.
Can we go
that's
to the pole
exactly how we
inside?
had MAGFest 1 split. So you
Can we
did
go
see
inside?
extra space for anything because
No,
you know,
we're
they
still
make a
out in
lot
the
of-
hallway.
Come in for a minute if you want.
Oh, here's.
I used to come out here and
This
get
is just
drinks,
the bar.
not after MAGFest because
This is the bar. There was nothing going on in there except people. That was where people who were legally old enough to drink were getting drunk.
Let me just try this one real quick.
Oh, this is the outside where they had. Oh, this is where the Woodman of the World sign
well,
was.
we're back outside now, and there's nobody here.
You're gonna
so
see
that was pretty much it. MAGFest 1. The dimensions. I'm going to zoom in a minute and show you this. You can see the tiny amount of square footage in each of these ballrooms with how MAGFest got started. I guess there's not much. The guy at the front desk gave us this, the concierge. And we were talking to him a little bit about there was a science fiction show that used to be out here years ago called ShivaCon. And those guys, we worked for ShivaCon, and we did work for KatsuCon in DC, and Anime Mid-Atlantic in Richmond, and NecoCon in Virginia Beach, and that's where we learned how we staffed all 4 of those shows. That's how we only had like 2 on collecting as much as we can. So finally.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have any of that footage. It's too bad.
Oh, well, so we did have. I mean, we can upload that too.
Oh, so that's the surprise?
Oh, hang on. Well, go ahead. Oh, that was just me running my mouth. I was hoping we could get to the footage where I'm like walking around inside the actual game room and the concert room, and we did those videos, but I guess we don't have them.
I may have them somewhere else, but I
Okay,
couldn't find them here, so.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, well, and we could upload it at the same time I upload the concert footage, but yeah. What did you bring? Did you bring the M points? Do we actually have any M points? Oh well, never mind. So we're just going to show the video footage, and there's not going to be any. We were going to do a 10-minute version of Name That Tune retro vintage version, but we don't have the M points, so we're just going to watch it.
So do I start at the beginning here? Or?
If you want to see,
we'll find out.
Yeah. This is the band, E for Everyone.
We've got more, there are more t-shirts in the back, so you'll get a chance to win one later on, okay?
This goes for about 80 minutes. It's all of the E for Everyone set and about half of the One Up set. Any of Sean Stone's friends in here today? Ale Sean? No. You'll see if anybody. Silent Hill 2? At some point, they do dress up like, they dress up in costumes. There's Bruce. Yeah, that's busted there in the back. Yeah, that's busted in the back. Done 20 years ago. Any of you guys know Jake Kaufman? Vert did the music for Shantae. He's in this video somewhere. He was at Mag 1. Anybody know what game this is from?
This guy right here is pretty serious.
That's what we're talking about.
That's my friend Bruce from undergrad. He's a non-traditional student because he was, well, God, over 10 years older. 10 years older than me. And, you know, God, he's almost. God, he's about 60 now. He's diabetic. He had his foot amputated about 4 years ago or so. He has like an accessibility van where the brakes on the steering wheel and stuff. But yeah, that's Bruce.
Security was not like, it was way, I mean, it wasn't a 20,000 people security job, so it was just a couple friends.
No, he was it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Chris had a MAGFest staff shirt for, Chris Yeaman had a MAGFest security. There were, yeah.
If we gave Chris Yeaman security.
That's what I'm saying, is it was much lower. The security back then was like, hey, you're our friend who is sizable and can take care of an issue, right?
Chris is about, what, like 5'5"?
Yeah,
and
but
like
he worked, at
100
the time
pounds.
he was 18 and went to the gym every day. Yeah. See, I remember a little bit of this stuff. But that was our buddy Bruce. That's our buddy Bruce. Cool.
I saw him about a year ago.
That's all. I said, is that Bruce? Yeah. It's funny I asked that.
Do we do any more questions? Or?
Who are the bands? And so there was E for Everyone. There was the One Ups.
One Ups.
Yeah, who else is in the footage?
That's the only two. The recording ends after about 80 minutes, halfway through the one-up set.
The mini bosses aren't on here, are they?
No, the mini bosses played third. They're not on here. Stephen Kennedy was running around with a. Didn't y'all still talk to Stephen Kennedy?
You know who
No,
that is?
because I don't think he ever came back after Mag 1, but he was running around with a video camera at the time. He might have some footage. He lives in Alaska now.
There's some various footage. Rez has some.
Yeah, he sent me 40 gigs of it finally. 40 gigs? I haven't sifted through it yet.
Oh my.
Yeah, I've got 40 gigs of video footage from various MAGFests I haven't gone through yet.
Who's got 40 gigs of free time?
Last year I had mentioned I was trying to work on a book about the history of MAGFest, but there have been some complications, so it's indefinitely on ice right now, in case anybody was wondering.
Any more questions?
Anybody else? How much time do we have?
We got a few minutes.
We got 3 minutes. We could take another question if you want. All the way in the back, orange.
So other than obviously you guys and the main, is there anything else that came from like year one that's still being done, or still like you want done after 20 years?
Good question.
So is there anything that we want, that from year one that's still going or that we would like done?
I think one of the coolest things about this convention is you can basically play almost any game or at least console you want. And for me, I remember at MAGFest won the Turbo Duo, the Neo Geo. And that was like we all were talking about the video games being the heart of everything. I think it's really cool. You can still go around and, at this convention, play stuff on a PVM, play 40-year-old rare vintage stuff.
That and just 24-hour arcade. I mean, a lot of cons don't have that.
And if we ever move out of this place, we're gonna have to go real far in order to find another place bigger than this that is 24 hours. So we love this place.
I think the one thing for me, and it's going to sound cheesy, but is the thing that for me is kind of carried on from year one all the way through staffing to today, and I see this at other conventions I don't see here, is basically there's really kind of one rule, is that basically don't be a dick. No, seriously, everybody is generally pretty chill with each other, whether it's staff, whether it's attendees. It's a very community, very grassroots thing, even with 25,000 people, and even 20 years in, I still love that. So.
I remember fighting game tournaments were a much bigger part of the first one as well.
Yeah.
He entered Guilty Gear. I don't know if I entered.
No, yeah, I entered, and I got knocked out by Justin Wong, I believe.
No, he wasn't at 1, but he would have been at 2. No, he was at 2.
Was he?
Definitely, yep.
Nobody knew who he was back then.
Nope.
Some people.
Yes, that Justin Wong.
Yeah, he was just here.
Justin Wong came for years and years with Triforce from Empire Arcadia.
I remember Walter Day used to show up. Y'all know, oh gosh, I was going to show a couple of years ago, y'all know Walter Day? The Twin Galaxies with the ref suit. He's a nice enough guy. Yeah, that's right. He has the trading card thing. Years ago, about 2018, he put me into his little trading card. I've got my own trading card. Yeah, I brought there in my bag. I completely forgot about him.
Okay. I think we can do one more question.
Yeah, all right, right here.
What is the oldest MAGFest inside joke or meme that you can
What's the oldest inside
Can I
joke
take this
for
one?
MAGFest?
Can I take this
Yeah.
one? Okay, so there was some, and I was like 11, 12, but I do remember the mini bosses. They specifically they specifically requested, "Can we watch porn in our hotel room?"
I knew where you were going with that.
What was the answer?
Did they pay for it or what?
All right. Yeah, so this was MAGFest 1, the mini bosses, because we were paying for the hotel rooms, and they got one hotel room for all 4 of them, and so first the one-ups came up, which was like, hey, and because we had given them a hotel room too, and they're like, the one-ups come, they're like, hey, you're going to give us more hotel rooms and more badges. I'm like, no. We can give you the badges, but we can't afford more hotel rooms. Then they were like, oh, okay. But then, because we just didn't have the budget. But then, of course, the next day, the Sunday morning rather, we're getting the bills, and the one-ups, it was what we expected with the extra hotel, or with the extra badges and on the mini bosses bill, there were a bunch of pay-per-view adult films.
Skinamax.
It was it was a bunch of porn. And I had to pull them aside. I'm like, guys, we can't pay for we're not paying for the porn. I mean, we already comped your badges, we comped your plane tickets, we comped your room. It was a great show. We're not paying for your porn. And then they were like, yeah, but yes, that really, because the management and staff changed so much between year 1 and year 2, nobody really knew that story. But yeah, the mini bosses, they, back in their hotel room after the show, they watched a bunch of porn.
It's really good to know that level of shit posting existed in the first one.
Yes, so all the way from the beginning, there was shit posting.
They wanted buckets of chicken and porn.
Yeah. That's right, yeah, because they had gotten some. Yeah. They had fried chicken that night.
And porn.
That was it. Yeah. Well, I wonder if that was before or after the movie. What year was the movie? We'll find out later. Anyway, it's 4:02.
Any last thoughts
You guys want to close it out with anything? We'll go down
There's.
I'll start.
Sometimes you run across something special and you just got to run with it. And that's what I've always done. I never wanted to miss a year, and I was just lucky I got in on the ground floor. I saw it. I remember helping load stuff like video game consoles like out of Brendan's apartment. I remember seeing Brental Floss show up, and I'm like, oh yeah, this place is really going places.
I just want to say thanks to Joe for getting us on the panel. Yeah, pretty sweet.
Nobody else want.
Thank you, guys. I've been doing this with my brother my whole life, but he's invited me to this panel a couple of times, and it's cool to see how we didn't have this many people here a couple years ago. So thank you, guys. And this isn't the end. We're going to go through Tom and my brother, but thank you guys for coming to the panel.
Yeah, thanks again. I'm looking forward to like the next 20 years. And one of the things I'll say about MAGFest is it's always a little bit weird. You always have a chance to see something you never see, and I'll give you one example of that. Thursday night, there was a panel, and yes, we do have a recording of this. The panel was recorded of somebody doing a voiceover, reading a passage from Lord of the Rings, speaking as Chris Pratt in the Mario voice. So you can look forward to that in about a month or so when we get it posted.
The joke that fell flat was, thanks, Steve. Nobody else wanted to be up here with me. It still fell flat. It's fine. Two, we will get this 80-minute video and the MAGFest Hotel 1 walkthrough. We will find some way to get that up so everybody will have access to it. Once it's on the internet, it's forever anyways. Three, happy 20th anniversary. Thanks for coming to MAGFest. I hope you enjoy the weekend.
Yeah, thank you.